In Telepath Tactics Liberated you follow two sisters, Emma and Sabrina Strider, in search for their father. Their poor little father has been captured by evil shadowlings, which are ghastly flying creatures who enslave humans to work in their mines. During their travels, Emma occasionally has flashbacks from her time in the mines as well, and she got saved by a lizard-like race from the Licit faction. Both sisters walk away from their saviors when they grow stronger to find their dead, and the Licit leader sends Silithis Predat, a strong lizard warrior with two companions after them, to look out for them and make sure they succeed. The game has a turn-based fighting style and combat functions a whole lot like the old Exile series. Each turn a character can move a certain amount of tiles and has a limited amount of skills. As they kill or do damage they gain experience, better stats and new skills. So both sisters are the swordsman class, which is a very versatile class, and they can lay traps to decent damage, can counterattacks, which is incredibly important for being a frontline warrior. Counterattacking only works while being attacked from the front of the side, but never from the back. The latter two do also much more damage, so positioning is key. You quickly enter a town and there you meet 4 new people. A very whiny mentalist who really doesn't feel like helping you, called Louis Laker the Main. She can heal as well and at higher levels levitate and move objects. Moving objects can be done by normal units as well in the form of pushing and pulling. This can help you enormously by simply pushing someone over a bridge to take them out, or pushing a friend to the side to make room, or even pushing some into each other. In the same company of Louise is a brave X-fighter called Madeleine Strongarm, and she drags Lois along, as she very much wants to fight at your side. Just like swordsmen, X-fighters are high damage frontline units. When equipped with throwing axes they can even do some ranged damage. 2 more companions join from the same town when it's being attacked by bandits. Gavriel and Farazad Hashman, an archer and a photokinesthesist. The archer is, well, a ranged damage dealer, but the photokineticist is a support damage dealer class. I am going to spell the word kineticists a lot of time and it's going to be different every time, so get used to that. Capable of giving a dodge bonus, blind enemies or damage spells, as well as heavy AoE on higher level. As you help save the town, you travel further and quickly stumble upon a caravan being attacked. Securing the caravan and saving the guards fighting for their lives will grant you 4 more units. A crossbowman, Linus Shining Hat, which is incredibly useful and it has explosive shots, being able to quickly destroy obstacles or even bridge parts. A Psy healer called Quian Thunderbrook, which is somewhat similar to the Mentalist, but starts getting more powerful heals and more importantly multi and area heals very quickly when leveling. Another X-fighter called Fernando Hageltower and a spearman called Clementine Licklecaster. The spearman has 1 tile extra range, but at first can only throw the spear and has very low damage, but incredibly high defense and counterattack. As we have quite a decent army now, let's talk a bit about the battleground. The battleground has tons of objects and everything has a health bar, thus can be destroyed, except the normal ground tiles of course. Trees, rock, bridges and even treasure chests are scattered across the map and can all be used as a tactical advantage. Often when enemies have nothing to do they will just randomly destroy objects, even their own defenses from time to time. There's not much time between fights, you usually get thrown from one battle to another. Between battles you sometimes get friendly instances like towns, but you can't control who to interact with or where to go. Just somewhat of a story enhancing cutscene. The enemies are firstly mainly simple classes like bandits, similar to X-fighters and swordsmen and bowmen. When fighting the bandits at the caravan you get introduced to cavaliers and the caravan guard team, fast moving units that can continue moving after attacking, and the early mentioned crossbowmen. They seem to have a high bonus against flying as well. The battlefield is often designed to get you attacked from multiple sides, and that brings an important planning element as you often have to split up to either save a friendly or to deal with multiple attackers. This is the first element that can really bite you if you are not careful. You cannot simply save in between. At lower difficulties characters will come back, but at higher difficulties there will be permadeath. When Emma or Sabrina dies or anyone important you need to save, you simply have to restart the entire battle. Sometimes you find trees, like apple trees, you can destroy for healing and energy restore items. Energy is needed for all classes to use special abilities or for casters to do any form of attack or support spells. All the healing items are bandages for health and focus pills for energy. Needlessly to say, later on you'll find many more items like sharpening stones to temporarily increase damage or other pills and boos, for other effects ranging from upping resistance to berserk-like effects. You can use consumables once per turn in battle, this doesn't cost you anything. You can also freely give items from characters in the town next to you by simply right clicking on the character when it still has a turn. You can even equip weapons freely. As we progress, after you save the caravan, you will find a trader. You don't find traders too often, so do everything you must and don't hold back in spending, mainly because your weapons have durability and early on that is not much. 40 hits with a weapon is done in no time, and if the weapon breaks for multiple characters the fight is over, so plan ahead and bring backups. I usually buy apples for everyone, they are very cheap and give much better effects for your money than the other items. Slowly start upgrading the armor from your front line, it really helps a lot when it takes 6 damage instead of 16, and focus on either buying a backup weapon or an upgrade weapon. You can equip directly in the trading screen, so make sure you do that there too. While hovering over the items you will see portraits lit up for the characters that can use them. Also while trading you can see who is interested in the item. When the character has a better, similar item, the portraits won't lit up anymore. Loot everything, try to make room to pick up chests on the battlefield before you kill all enemies, or the loot is lost. Also focus on picking up bags, if the enemy picks the bag up, and they will at every occasion, you lose the loot. You need every weapon and every coin you can find. Personally, I usually have 2 apples and either a bandage or a focus pill per character depending on their role. After trading, the story progresses and you see cutscenes of a bandit warlord called Iga Bloodbeard talking to his underling Farah. They need to secure harvest and goods in a very short time, and he expects that one of his bandit leaders called Gunther Lathe will deal with this when he hears about the town rebelling. The scene ends with a mysterious shadowling talking to Gunther, obviously having him under his spell, and they need more slaves for the mines. Several battles occur and you notice in one of the battles you can talk to an unhappy bandit pyrokineticist and convince her to join the cause. Rebecca Flare, the pyromancer, is a true damage dealer and can apply a strong burn effect as well as on higher level keep the ground ablaze. This can backfire quickly if not careful because she is eager to destroy anything in her path. After defeating Gunther, Emma uses the leader to sneak into the castle. The castle is the first instance you can walk around with Emma, explore the area, loot chests and talk to people. After talking to Farah, she sees through your schemes after you ask her to get into the prison and walk off to possibly get some guards. You can then sneak back into the prison and simply dispose of the guard either by attacking him or try to pickpocket him for the keys. In the prison you'll find 4 new companions, another spearman called Harriet Glaive, an assassin named Tremolo Phallanger, which will become your best friend very quickly if you can see what he can do. The assassin is heavily overpowered class who can walk twice as far, deal insane backstab damage and freely can jump over objects and characters at the cost of some energy. A golem, Lord Dakarai, which seem at first useless and slow, but at later levels can boost his movement to oblivion at the cost of energy, and has a line and also a half a cone attack, which makes it the first melee AoE fighter. And another heavily overpowered Psy healer, which is actually a shadowling called Harynx, meaning it can fly, does move over objects and has twice as much movement as your first Psy healer. Being a shadowling, it can even teleport, all in all an upgrade from Creon Thunderbrook, your first Psy healer. With the help of your new friends you escape the castle. You can fight to the death, but the enemy is way too powerful, so escape with Emma. At the same time, Sabrina, your sister, found 2 more companions who are actually looking for Lord Dakarai the Golem. They tag along with Sabrina, who is moving with the rest of the army to save Emma after they hear battle noises from the castle. The first companion is Phoebe Whittler, a cryokineticist, which basically is the ice counterpart of the pyrokineticist. The second one is Teresa Deo, an engineer. This is a utility character that can build obstacles and bridges, multiple ones even in one turn. It feels pretty useless in most battles and get explosive charge and traps at higher levels. You will most likely either let her tag along to level her or only use her when needing to cross a river or to get a chest. Despite having a flying char, the Shadowling cannot destroy chests as it doesn't have a physical attack, so many chests are still hard to reach. If you can shoot it though, you will loot all loose items and bags once you are victorious. So even if it's on a small island, you just shoot the chest and let the bag there to be automatically collected. The next battle map is rather interactive. With the engineer, quickly build a bridge over the castle moat, and after a few turns Emma pops out. From several sides, including from the castle behind Emma, enemies will pour out, more each turn. You can slowly retreat and kill as many as possible for the best experience, or fight until the death. Most likely you won't make it though. Afterwards there will be several more bandit fights, ending with an Emma flashback about two shadowlings being all evil against humanity. Eventually the party reach a large bridge. A knight called Aben Rabban is guarding the bridge and somehow wants to stop you from entering the town of Korea. A long fight on the bridge occurs, and after slaying the troops on the bridge, you can walk to the other side. Just because I can, I dispose of Rabban, which was optional, but I had an engineer and I could build a bridge towards him, and I had a pyrokineticist to burn him without him able to reach me. And finally we arrive at Korea, and I instantly get approached by a preacher who distracts me while someone pickpockets Emma, stealing the map she needs to get to the mines. Turns out we are not done with the bandage just yet. I do get some time to restock, which was really needed, and then multiple indoor fights start to retrieve the map. Amber Nullbone, the preacher from before, seems to be a bandit leader, so yet another one for us to slay. After disposing of him, I get back to the town to restock, and somehow I got a cavalier, Edwin Gabregast, and even though he showed up in a conversation, it was unclear why he joined our band. Regardless, once the next day I wake up surrounded by Ebons. Rabban survived somehow and now brought back a massive army of cavaliers. Emma can choose a new upgrade class at level 20. Liberator or Champion, and I made her Champion since that is the heavy form, and I made her sister more light-footed anyhow with Gorge instead of Shield. She looks much stronger after upgrading, and not much later Herrings also upgrades, and the choices are Caduceus or Hard Shielder. The first one making the psychokinetic shields cheaper, and the other one the physical shields or walls cheaper. Since it's a vital healer, I make him a Caduceus. When upgrading to a higher class, the character starts again at level 1. A little later my assassin got level 20 and he could choose between Whisper or Blackguard. A Blackguard excels in doing more damage and Whisper is undetected behind enemy lines. I did notice an extra 20% dodge chance, so I have to go for Whisper. A swordsman called Annal Stormhunter joined, albeit temporarily. She actually has a ranged fire spell which makes her rather unique for a frontline mania unit. Unfortunately, after dying in battle, I seem to have lost her. We managed to get a boat and a lot of talks and flashbacks happen aboard, including Emma finding the lizardman aboard. Our engineer asks if we can make a detour to some crypts to find robot parts. Since I want to level the column anyway, I think that is actually a great plan. The crazy bandit pyrokineticist levels to 20 and becomes either a Pyro-Curious with more range or a Pyro-Arch with more damage, which increases by use. I think the Pyro-Arch will benefit me more in long battles, so choose that. Needlessly to say, when Sabrina leveled, I made her the Liberator. I tried to place charges near enemies with my engineer, but despite doing heavy damage, killing enemies with charges didn't give any experience. But it did blow up walls and lock doors very well. The cryokineticists can freeze water, so that's a bonus when chests are in water. After some emotional talks, Silatus Pradat joined our teams with two other Barudit, which probably means crusher, since they're all about maces and breaking bones. Shortly afterwards I had to rescue two more lizardmen, and one of them being a Gazul named Sarnkamina, some kind of shaman. She was the one who rescued Emma and Sabrina all this time ago. The cryokineticist can choose between Cryo-Curious, focused on range again, and freezing enemies, or Cryarch, focused on damage. Since my pyrokineticist became Pyroarch, I think having a good support mage will be great, and I make her Cryo-Curious. She looks pretty cool with the wolf cape. As I come close to the mines, I encounter the first shadowling slaver, called Arcos. He has quite an army of humans around him which are just paid mercenaries like the bandits. One Psy healer called Doran Chamberlain is having second thoughts. The mentalist can charm enemies, which is rather overpowered, and bumps them up in usefulness a lot. The lizard basic unit, the Barodit or Mace fighter, upgrades to become a worm or a drake. The drake being a faster, dodgier unit, and the worm being tougher and has more damage output. For Celitus per dat, I choose the worm. Pushing people becomes incredibly useful in a second fight against an archer called Leon. As I brought a lot of low fighters and barely any strong mages because the fight looked easy, I quickly got in dire trouble when reinforcements came pouring in. Often pushing either enemies into each other, a mage out of harm's way, or even a tank in position, the pushing skill becomes more and more useful, and sometimes even more useful than just basic attacks. At one point I used 3 charges to push Lord Darkrai all the way past the bridge to get him to hit 3 enemies and level to level 20. I can choose between a Titan or a Colossus, and Colossus both get counterattack and more speed, so I prefer that one. I've been enjoying the insane power of the crossbowman more and more. At higher levels he can even hit 5 squares with massive explosive bullets, doing tons of damage. To, for example, columns and structures. At 20 it's the Arbalist or the Sharpshooter, and since the explosive power is so amazing, I do choose the Arbalist over the Sharpshooter. The latter specializing in poison and range, while the Arbalist focus on heavy explosive power. I run into a lot of Shadowlink slave masters and forcers and human mercenaries while fighting my way through the mines. Eventually we finally rescue the slaves, which are actually quite hesitant to be freed. Despite Emma's father being weak and frail already many years ago when they left, the moment Emma and sisters arrive, he's still alive but he instantly dies, which is rather weak on story progression, and after that a massive cave opens and Torion taunts the player into attacking him. I focus heavily on one side and try to close the cave openings to stop the spawning. The game bugged badly on several points. When the engineer builds a platform from a height, it started overlapping, and when building on top of the Cryarch's head, the Cryarch was on top of it but visibly below it and couldn't get off. Even when eventually climbing back on the height and jumping off, she has remained invisible for the entire match. Bridges can be built through heights and they become passable but hide the character. When moving boulders multiple times, they first go somewhat in the ground and eventually become entirely invisible. A very important thing to know is that if mages have moved, they only get +1 energy, but if they didn't do anything, they get actually +4 energy. Finally, after killing Tarion, the story ends on soldier difficulty, and happy endings were distributed like candy on Halloween. A fun game but incredibly directed, so not much free movement or player choice outside the battles.